order of business is public comment. I don't have any cards or but I'll be here for a comment.
Wait, people look for the rest of speak up.
Yeah, right. Speak up. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, then the first item is just my report from the board meeting, last board meeting. And there was a whole lot of information, as always. And I was re-looking at the board meeting when I went through it this morning. And, you know, again, I advise if you feel like it, go on the internet and watch it, because you can learn a great deal about all the many things that are going on beyond the things that we learn about here. But, you know, for some of the things that I noticed, for example, I know that the local coordinating board update from Brian Scott, he talked about how the Tri-County local coordinating board is looking at getting grants for regional paratransit, which is something we've talked about in terms of regionalism. And wouldn't that be wonderful if we could get to the point of having regional paratransit? And they covered that. There was some talk about the Janet Long, who is the chair of the board, is also on T-BARDA and a number of different letter agencies. And she talked about all of the updates from those, and again, just an abundance of information that is relevant for where regional transit is going in this area, and hopefully quicker than, you know, faster than slower. And then there, as far as the material that was covered at the board meeting, there were again some very interesting things. There was a review of the performance scorecard update, which is something that they use here within PSTA, that they can look at the goals that they have by different departments for some large overall objectives. Again, worthwhile looking at that. There was an update on the Modern Transit ad campaign and some results that they're seeing from that. Again, worth looking at. And then the other thing, what Cassandra Borchers presented, funding for transit investments. One of the things that I found particularly interesting was the tourism-focused transit projects, and how they, you know, now there are, by a change in, you can probably say it better than I, but the change in the way that the laws are written, now the dollars that are collected from the bed tax from the hotels can some of it be used for transit as well, because transit is something that is relevant for people getting to the hotels and the beaches. Is that right?
So the presentation was about that, and then some other funding sources. I think it was sort of we presented a list of candidate projects that we could potentially look to implement if we had additional funding, and we made some suggestions for some sources. So I think that's a longer conversation with the board and then the authorizing agencies like the Commission.
But again, definitely worth you know, looking at some point if you feel like just kicking your feet up. Okay. Then the next item on our agenda is the Forward Pinellas report. And Dave?
Yeah, thank you. I missed last month's meeting because I was in Savannah. If I can give you a couple things I've been doing. I attended the Congress for New Urbanism, which was wonderful. It was a one-week convention. New Urbanism is about land development, builders, highways, and it ties in with transit, of course, light rail, things like that, and how it works. And attended great sessions, primarily about sustainable development and what they call walkable communities and how that ties to transit. One of the neatest things I saw was about tiny homes. Every time I see tiny homes, I always think about prison cells. How on earth would I live in that little thing? But when you start having different configurations of them, how you use outdoors, how you use common space, well, they really aren't that tiny if you start thinking outside the box. I always think of tiny homes the way you think of your house. You never leave it or you stay inside. Gee, they're so small, but when you work them together. So there were a lot of people that were doing a lot of interesting things. The other thing we heard about was unsustainable development, how gated communities are so big, they're just unsustainable. First off, the infrastructure required for them is unsustainable. You know, we talk about bridges and highways and how is America going to rebuild all that stuff. But the fact of the matter is, with those kind of spaces required, the amount of money to just keep water going on those kind of distances or highways, folks are not taxing themselves enough. So they are unsustainable, period. There's no amount of way that folks will pay themselves. And there are entire cities right now in America, Phoenix, San Antonio, there are entire cities that people know are unsustainable, but builders are still out there building in. And so in this seminar, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, whether to be happy or sad. It's neat that people know about it, yet the guys that are making money off of it are ignoring it. And I learned a word, and I would love all of you to use it since we are transit activists. And when folks talk about a road that we're looking at trying to turn into neighborhoods and communities, there are roads that are designed to put cars in one end, run them through without stopping for business or neighborhoods or uses or people, and just flush them out the other side. And the neat word I've heard for this is automobile sewers, because that's what sewers do, is you flush things in and you don't want them to stop and you don't want to touch them. Of course, what you really want neighborhoods to do is to have bike paths and walking paths, and you want your cars, people to park and go to the bakery or the library or the post office. Neighborhood streets, the opposite of a neighborhood street is a car sewer. So when someone says we're going to take 19 and block it off so people can get on it at a Gandhi and not get off of it until Weeki Wachee, what they're trying to build is a car sewer, cut our county in half, and make a moat with a car sewer running right down the middle of it. And the question for us is that what we want, or do we want communities and neighborhoods where people can get through it? That was the biggest takeaway I had from my 4 days. Anyway, after I got home, I went to the FDOT presentation on US 19. I don't know if any of you were there. And my takeaway from that, I think we saw it here, was we saw a great sign that said, FDOT, you talk, we listen. And I thought, who are you listening to except the guys building houses up in Homosassa? I mean, when folks talk about, we'd like you to slow down some of the road building that is designed just for this unsustainable sprawl, who are you listening to? You're listening to the guys that are making money off building those houses, building these unsustainable neighborhoods. And the guy who builds the house takes the money, he's gone. And now the guy who bought the house, thinking I live in paradise, doesn't know, but it's a ticking time bomb. 30 years from now, when those sewers break or that water pipe needs to be repaired, there's no money for it. And so you talk, we listen. But I thought, and I even asked them, I said, well, who are you listening to? You're not listening to me. We're the ones who want transit. I attended the Forward Pinellas. We saw a great presentation on complete streets. I think we saw it here about 16th Street. St. Pete is being inspired, making protected bike path. They're kicking things around. I would invite you guys to join it. Each of these things has participation, so if you live anywhere between North St. I would just get involved at all, even if you don't live there. Just go and learn about this stuff. Complete Streets is wonderful. It's this term for pulling some lanes back for a bike path, a roller skating path, having some protection from it. There's everybody knows how to do this stuff now. It's not a matter of risking lives. And it turns out, it's really true, if you make a road bigger, you don't end congestion. More people just get on it because they start building houses farther down the street. When you make a road smaller, you end up with more traffic of people that say, well, I'll get on it and go to the bakery, I'll go to the post office, and you end up with more business. So smaller roads actually have just as much foot traffic. If you measure traffic not in how many cars flush through that sewer, but how many people get on and use that road, smaller roads are just as active as big sewers. So I'd invite you all to get involved with that. CAC, the citizen version of Forward Pinellas, is pretty good. They had pushed very hard, like we're politically active for these different things. They were pushed very hard trying to get Tallahassee to pass a distracted driver. They went to the mat for some distracted driver and they missed. It got tied up. What do you mean distracted? Can a cop pull the guy over? Blah, 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 and it died in session. So, darn it, I don't know. I don't know if I want policemen pulling me over because I'm on my phone. I don't know. Anyway, was it one of these, if you were in an accident or if you could stop? After that, you may know about TBARTA. TBARTA has a citizen advisory too, and I went and attended that. Bill Johnson, who we know as that, Johnson, has now, because he was term limited out of Clearwater, term limited off of PSTA, has, as a citizen, I'm so proud of him,
Mhm, yeah.
gone to the T-Barda Citizens and is now the chair of that. And so you know that they're going to get some stuff done over there. We saw a great presentation on the economic development of light rail and the BRT and all of this stuff. I hope something comes of it. We saw a great PSTA presentation. Who made it? About the 300X and the airport run and the beach run and all of that. So it was very inspiring to know that the folks from Hillsborough and Pasco were getting all that stuff too. So I had a great month. I'm fired up. Let's go. If anyone wants to be inspired, I'll buy you coffee and tell you all about it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Okay. Before we get to the next action item, I wanted to point out that one of our board members, Mr. Schulman is here.
Hi there.
Thank you very much for attending. It's always so good to see a board member here. Do you have any comments for our?
I am just taking it all in.
Okay. Okay, good, thank you. All right, our first action item then, our only action item, is the approval of the meeting minutes from May 15th. Have all of you had a chance to look over the meeting minutes? Are there any changes, corrections, additions? If not, I will have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Second. Second by Elizabeth. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, now we have a number of information items. Our first is the detour communication with Jeff Thompson and Cindy Raskin-Schmidt and Raj Singh. This is interesting because this is one of the things we were talking about, the importance in terms of detour communication. So thank you for putting that together for us.
Good afternoon. I am, as you introduced already, I'm Cindy. I'm the Director of Communications. Jeff is our Transportation Director, and Raj is our Principal Scheduler. So the three of us are just going to share with you how it is that we get information about detours. There's 3 different kinds. We're going to break those down a little bit for you, and how we let riders know about those detours. And then because we kind of dug into this and sat together and created this presentation, we already have some ideas of how we can improve that as a direct result of preparing to share this with you. So thank you already for being proactive in this effort. So first, let's turn it on. Yep. Okay, so first, Jeff's going to explain to you what the description of the detour is and how we find out about it, and then I'll tell you how we communicate those.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming. First of all, from an operational standpoint, detours are something that get in our way. They keep us from providing the service that we say is on our schedule. We say the bus is going to go down this street. Well, sometimes we can't go down this street. It becomes an obstacle to that goal, but we work through that obstacle to still try to reach the goal, okay? Detours come from many different sources. We get them from municipalities. We get them from different cities and from the county. We get them from different jurisdictions like the fire department, like the police department. We get them from construction companies. We get them from home improvement places, people that are building condos or people that are building buildings along the roads that we travel. We get them from a lot of different places, and they last a lot of different spans of time. So there are also different kinds of detours that we get that happen on a daily basis or happen on the fly, shall we say. But for the most part, we get advance notice, and usually we get enough notice where we can plan what our detour is going to be for something that we get, say, from the city of Gulfport, that they're going to close down a road for a specific amount of time. So they come at us from all different directions. They come at us through emails, through websites, through announcements, through notices from cities. And we probably deal with about, I'm going to say, maybe a half a dozen of them a month throughout the county. So it's not a widespread problem, but being out on the buses, I'm sure that you've come into some unexpected detours, or perhaps you were on a bus that was on detour and you knew when you got on there. So that's where they come from. And it results in a change to our services, as I mentioned before. And one of the ways that we like to communicate those to the driver or to the customers is through the rider alert page on our website, which you see right there on the right. Up at the top is the menu button, and when you click on that menu button, it drops down the Rider Alert option. You look at the Rider Alert page, and it gives you a listing of the detours that are currently active or that are coming up. We try to give you a few days advance notice, specifically by what route they're on and what roads are affected. We've looked at other websites, for example, Lynx. They do it the same way that we do. They put on there what roads the bus is going to travel on. So if you're in the neighborhood and the bus is going around the route, you can get to another road and catch it. They tell you what road it's going to travel on. So, you know, there's something that we don't like, but we deal with, and we think we deal with it pretty effectively as far as keeping close to the route. But we want to improve on our communication to the customers to make sure that you know and our customers know where they're going when they're not on the regular route. A short-term detour is something that we deal with. For example, today we dealt with one in South Pasadena where there could be a gas leak or there could be a traffic accident or some kind of reason why we can't go down a street for a short period of time. Okay, when that happens, basically we're at the liberty or at the direction of the police department or the emergency response team that's on scene for the response. Okay, they tell us where to go and what roads to travel on. Our road supervision staff is also out there to make sure that our buses can travel safely on streets that are off the route. And they happen for many reasons, as I mentioned: accidents, natural events such as flooding, rain, perhaps lightning strikes an object and it falls down on the road. Any number of things can happen. And so those happen quickly, and we deal with them live, and then to get them out to the public as quickly as we can, we'd like to use the Twitter and alert you electronically.
Right, so the Twitter alerts feed, it's PSTA alerts. If any of you are on Twitter, please go follow it. We've worked very hard over the past few months to get customer service staff trained. So when they get these short-term unexpected detours in through their inboxes, they're posting them on to this Twitter feed as quickly as possible. And then they do their best to also follow up when a situation is cleared and the route is back to normal. So that's for the short-term things that we don't have any kind of advance notice about. That's really the best way to get that information out. And of course, you can always call the info line if you're ever in doubt. I'm just going to go back to here to the advance notice short-term detours to talk about those a little bit.
We put signs out on the bus stop poles, and they announced that the bus stop is going to be closed, and I brought one this afternoon in case you haven't seen one. And this one was for the Hippy Dippy Dash, which was on May 19th in the city of Gulfport. Okay, and this one affected the Route 15. And you'll notice here, it says that the bus stop is closed, and then it gives the details of the dates and the time and where to go to catch the vehicle, where to go to catch the bus that's not on the route that it's on. So we put these out there as soon as we're notified of the detour within a relatively good period of time. We don't want to put it out there 10 days ahead of time. We'd rather put it out there 2 or 3 days ahead of time or a week ahead of time to make sure that people that are riding the bus get advance notice and they know that it's going to be closed on that specific day. But that's kind of with the short-term detours. This is kind of for a pre-planned event, or perhaps something that's going to be closed for quite some time. We might put this out here. For example, this weekend, you know, if we've got a festival in one of the cities, the supervisor will go out there usually on Wednesday or Thursday and post those signs and let the people know that it's going to be closed. And also, as I mentioned before, we do the alerts on the website and, you know, try to talk to the customers, and this is where the driver's personality comes into this a lot, where if they see you getting on a bus at a stop that's going to be closed in a couple days, they can help you to understand what's going on with that and answer questions for you for things that come up. So the drivers play an important part in this, and you know, we just got to get them to open up more and to talk to people and make sure that they're communicating with them to let them know what's going on also when they know ahead of time.
So the advance notice short-term detours, I'm going to introduce Raj to you now, and he's going to tell you, does everybody in the room use the real-time? Anybody use real-time texting, transit app, any of those things? There's a new module Raj is going to tell us about.
Hi, I'm Raj. Good afternoon, the scheduling department. So you have been on our website, and you know when you go to the real-time site, there is a map feature, and on the left is the outline of the Route 4, and let's say the way Jeff gets his information on detours, and they're planning long-term detours for the Route 4, it's going to shut down, let's say 118th Avenue or 28th Street. Now we have to figure out a way to cut that route and to put it on detour. What that lets us do is, in pre-planning, we will set up the time and the dates for the detour and cut the route, and it will show the new, let's say we bring it down, this is Sharer Drive in front. We will put it there, and that information will translate straight to the real-time map in the time frame that's been described. And all the stops, it's going to show the Route 4 is on detour, and the bulletin, we're now working out the logistics because this is a new feature that we got with the real-time project upgrade that's been going on for about a year and so. And it will say what information we want, catch the route somewhere or go to these near stops, and it will let you know real-time what's happening with that route and each bus stop affected. So if you're out there and you hit the QR, it will tell you that this route is on detour, it's not serving this stop. And if you can see the map on real time before you go out there, you will see the new routing on the map as the routing shows on the real time system. We are looking into the feed that goes straight to the transit app. And if it's polling within 30 seconds, if that information is going to go, we will have that. Stay tuned for that information as far as transit app goes. Of course.
So I appreciate the change to the detouring. Does it also adjust the timing of the stops? Because one of the things that we've seen is when there is a detour, the time of when the bus is expected to arrive, even at the next posted stop, isn't really anywhere close to accurate.
On the schedule, no, but that system is polling live, so it will use the GPS location of the bus and the proximity to the next. If we install stops or activate stops along the detour, that information will come through as the bus comes down the road to where you're standing for real-time information.
Okay, because I've actually been at a stop that was after a detour for the Saturday morning market in St. Pete. It said the bus had passed. We were there 5 minutes before the bus arrived, and then it said the bus passed, and the bus never came. And then 20 minutes later, the bus showed up. And there was a group of probably about 25 people that were, and that information was also being relied to, so if they called in to the info line, they were getting the same timing information as we were on the app, and it was not even close.
On the transit app?
Right, and that wasn't the first time, and I was using the real-time system, the one that's on the left.
Okay.
But again, you know, I polled some of the other people that were at the stop, and they said they had called in and were giving the quote at the same timing. So I wasn't sure. That's a problem when you're trying to figure out when and where to be, especially if it's being rerouted. Did you miss it? Did you not miss it? Were you on the right street?
Right. Well, sometimes what causes that is the signal, or the Sprint is the Wi-Fi connection, and the area could be down, and there's a lag time. But we're working on that to see if we can get that up to within 30 seconds of reporting. So that's one of the things.
I think this will help with that too, because now if your bus goes on detour, the real-time system knows where it's supposed to go, and it's polling all the time to see how close is it coming to the stop. And if all of a sudden we detour it over here, the system's going, ah! Right. I don't know where the bus is, and I don't know when it's going to get here because it's not where it's supposed to be.
So that's an enhancement that we're expecting.
This is a new feature that's being turning on. Yes, as we speak, we are working on bringing it online. And you will see the same information as what bus is, where it's at along the routing. So you will know as it gets closer to you, and if it passed or if it's not coming, you will have that information also.
Okay, thank you.
So if I can summarize our three kinds of detours, we have long-term detours we know about in advance, we have short-term detours that we know about in advance, and then we have those short-term no-notice, car accident, flooding, whatever.
Sorry, one quick thing.
Okay.
She said short-term. Just to let you know, this detour feature is only good for any detour longer than an hour. So if it's something that's an accident or something like that, we won't have time to throw it up on the real-time system. That'll be a call-in feature. This is pre-planned on something long-term projected. Thank you. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. So we have ways that we're reaching out and sharing that information. As I mentioned at the beginning, as we were putting together this presentation, we were able to identify a couple of areas that we can look at to improve this already. So we're going to look at adding the Twitter feed to the rider alert page. So right now, if you go on that rider alert page, it's only the long-term detours that our web designers have had time to go and type the information and upload it. But we are looking at having the programming done that would add that Twitter feed module to that page. And we're already working on that. I have the agency that created the website for us already working on pricing it for me. And then the second thing, which is a little bit longer term, is looking at the possibility of extending the service hours for the info line to match the service hours of the system. So right now, you know, the info line closes at 8 o'clock, but we have buses that run till 11 or 12. So in the future, that would have a budget impact because that means having more people on staff. But it is something that we're going to look at and consider in the future. And of course, this real-time update is going to be very exciting. They've been working on it for a while, and it's just getting to a place where you're going to start to see it soon. So watch for that. All right, and with that, I'll be happy to take any other questions.
Sorry.
Go ahead, no.
The construction that's going on right now on 38th Avenue, and the buses have to turn on 28th Street. Sometimes it's confusing, you know, on the real time when the number 11 and the 38 when go down the same road. It sometimes is kind of confusing because they're using, it's like you're saying they're using the same stops.
Okay, well, we can have them look at that. I don't really know the details of those, but we can have them take a peek at that and give you a response.
That'll be over like in another week, just for the record.
Oh, we'll be
Yeah,
over
it's
in
almost
another
over,
week.
yeah.
Okay.
But the 11 runs up 28th Street and the other one runs across 38th Avenue, so I don't know how they could show that they're using the same
Well,
stops, but I'll
because
take a look at it.
number 38 turns on 28th Street to go
Yeah.
down 30th.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, we'll look at that. Thank you.
Other questions, Mark? You had?
Have you guys considered doing what they do in Tampa when they're on detour and they have the marquee on the bus saying on detour?
Yes.
Yeah, we've looked at
Yes,
that.
we have.
Okay,
that-
because I mean, I think
is
that
an
would be
option.
helpful because a lot of riders,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not that a lot of them don't think to do the real time or check the website. They're just so used to ingrained like me. I just go, I get on the bus and I just go.
Right.
And some people just don't have a smartphone. So I think just that alone, if they see it says on detour, like maybe have them ask the driver, you know, what's going
What
on.
is the detour?
Right.
Yeah, we've looked at that and we'll continue
That's,
to do
that's,
so.
that's an option on the sign. They just put it on there. And I understand when you go up and get on the bus and it says it's on detour, you maybe think, oh, wait a minute.
Now I gotta ask,
Yeah,
right.
I gotta
Yeah.
pay attention. So we're good, yeah.
Other questions? I have one. Mine is just my repetitive story about sidewalks, but are the municipalities letting you know when they close sidewalks? Because that's access to some bus stops, and what ends up happening is that there have been times when I've had to go back up a block and around a block to be able to catch a bus because the sidewalk construction is happening. Do you hear about any of that, and does that?
We
did
do
that get
hear
buried in?
about, we do hear about a lot of it, yes. I can't say that we hear about all of it, no. When there is a bus stop that is going to be affected by construction, we usually do get notice from the construction company that it's gonna be down, or that we have to go move it, or we have to do something to it. So the answer to that is yes. Percentage, I don't know, but I'm sure that you're absolutely correct, and we don't hear about it until you call us and tell us in some time. But most of the time, we do get that information. We try to take steps to put up a temporary stop, or let our operators know that, hey, you may pick up people in this construction zone while the stop is being, or while the sidewalk is being remodeled or whatever.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, I was just gonna add that I was informed of a stop yesterday by our TRAC members that in downtown Tampa that is not there. Right? Is it due to construction or?
Yeah, the city of Tampa repaved the street.
Yeah.
And so it's a stop to like the 300X that
And so
isn't there?
the pole with the sign went away. They just never put it back.
And some drivers still stop there and some don't.
Yeah, what is it, Jackson and Ashley?
Jackson and
Pierce
Pierce.
and Jackson.
Pierce, that's right.
I was told by the amenities group that was actually targeted for removal because of low ridership. When the city approached us, when they were going to take it out to do the repaving. So I suppose if there's a demand, we could put it back in.
There you go.
Wow.
Wow. I think you have one more question over here, Gloria?
Yeah.
But-
Go
I
ahead.
have a couple. First, when I was in Savannah, I ran into a bus stop that was on a total dirt shoulder with the stop smack in the middle of the road. So I'm so proud that PSTA, we generally have
Better
stops,
stops than that.
sidewalks and the like. I
Right.
thought,
Better.
if it was raining, I would be tromping through mud to even get to it. The sign itself seems to be low visibility. I've seen on Facebook other cities where it has an orange circle or a red line, the universal, the stop isn't working right now, or is there a reason, maybe a police order or something that says don't?
You mean the physical sign itself?
Yeah, the physical sign that says this stop is not working right now.
Oh, you mean our little, this, the
Yeah,
sign?
this-
here?
yeah.
Is it a reason why it's not more robust?
Yeah, more robust, there you go.
Well, it's, I don't have a reason why it's not more robust, but we figure that the appearance or what's on here is more important than how it looks.
Okay.
And we wanted to stand out from things that are already on there.
Yeah.
So, that's why we try to make it unique.
I saw something,
looking
and I
like
think,
this.
I want to say from Copenhagen, where they did like when a parking meter isn't working, they slipped a sleeve over
Bag
it
over
that
it
just
or
said,
something.
until, for the next 2 weeks, this is not working well. But
Yeah.
I sit on the CAC for Forward Pinellas, and I know the MPO has this book that's about this thick of every construction project for the next 10 years in order. If you guys have someone with a liaison to that, they should be able to tell you. I mean, rather than hoping Gulfport and Dunedin and unincorporated get you in the loop, they would be able to give you that information almost to the day or the hour of when they're going to close these things. I was impressed how much work goes to correlate that specifically so that there aren't 99 places to go. There is one book, one master book of all that. So if you get on that mailing list, it should make your life a lot easier. Nothing we're going to be able to do for flooding and car accidents and trees, but for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you. So next month, we hope you all are interested in having us come back and talk to you a little bit about other kinds of passenger communications. For example, when we have a service change coming up, what are the efforts that we do to share that information? So I know your overall vision was a little more holistic passenger communications. So this time we focus on detours, since a lot of you were super interested in that. So next month, that's our plan, is to bring you back some more information about other things, and then see what else comes up that you'd like to learn more about.
Thank you.
Thank you all
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you. Okay, our next information item now will be Bob Lasher speaking about the strategic public engagement plan.
There we go. All right, thank you. Thank you, good to be here, everyone. Nice to see some familiar faces again. I'm Bob Lasher, External Affairs Officer. I'm going to talk to you about our Strategic Public Outreach Plan. This is our overarching plan to help keep our outreach team focused, to help us maximize our efforts, maximize how we track our data and our engagement with the community, such as when Derek tells us about a bus stop he's asking about, we can bring that information back, and that was sent out to amenities, to transportation, and to maintenance, and we were able to get some answers and find out what was going on, and that's just a little microcosm of what we do. This is a living, dynamic plan. It kind of exists and bridges the gap between marketing and planning. This is part of a lot of what we do here at PSTA, because you've heard of our strategic marketing plan, our path forward, our strategic plans that we've been putting forward. Well, we also have a strategic outreach plan. And what we do as the outreach team is we engage the public, we give them a face, we talk to them one-on-one, we go do things that you can't do with mass marketing all of the time. Certainly not surveys. We will be out there doing surveys as well. A lot of you have seen us out there. We're right now starting to do our community bus plan surveys. We will take that data, bring it back to our planners to help them make more informed technical decisions. We will help them make marketing decisions when we bring it to marketing. And we are in-house. We used to do things like this. We'd farm it out to subcontractors, but it got very, very expensive. So we brought it in-house. It's not only cheaper, we have a lot more flexibility. So when marketing comes to us and said, hey, we need a quick survey done on the 100X to help us with our marketing, we can do that like that, literally within a few days. We can't do that with a subcontractor. It's also a lot more expensive. So we have more flexibility, and we're also saving the taxpayers some money. The team consists of 3 of us. Myself, and I'm sure most of you know, Juan Levine is in the back, and our newest member, Nicole Dufa. She was here earlier, but she took off. Our base duties, I know a lot of you are also very familiar with our event-routed events. We'll be tabling We handle service changes like this last week, when we had these changes, telling people, not just outside but inside, our drivers too, is what's going on, what the changes are, and letting people know aware of it. We also help with the ambassadors, as well as sometimes we have to bring in some extra help, like we did with our spring break park and ride service. And when we had the volunteers come in for Williams Park, thank you again, Elizabeth, for helping us get the word out. Because Elizabeth was down there with our vests and helping us get the word out before the service.
Very attractive orange vest.
Yes, what we say here is also it's one size fits one. They were supposed to be one size fits all, and a few of us put them on and like, oh no, it's not even close. Our ongoing target market, you're familiar with a lot of these. You know, we really want to get the seniors. It's very important here, especially when we want them to be able to age in place and when they start to age out of driving, which I'm fighting right now with my father, but that's here to there. Of course, our stakeholders, our partners, riders, and non-riders, they're our customers too. You're a driver in Pinellas County, you say you don't use PSTA, no, you use PSTA. 40,000 rides a day, 40 to 50,000 rides a day, we are helping you if you're driving. The strategic framework provides our basic structure, our overarching structure, targets our audiences and the publics that we need to get to for different projects, depending on what they are. Maybe it's a wide swath, maybe it's something very narrow, like the students, or like the whole community when we're doing our community bus plan update. And then, as I said, it helps us with the comment tracking. We actually had a database, our IT built us a database to help track our comments so that we can put them out digitally and have access so we can give them to Heather when she wants to plan a new project. Makes it a lot easier. What other things we're doing? We know, of course, new initiatives. We're out there promoting them, like Direct Connect is one of the new ones, and then, of course, the ongoing service changes. We also want to build trust in the agency with the community and prove our value. We want to go out and let people know what we do. Like what I just mentioned about people who may think, oh, I don't use PSTA, I drive. No, you use it. These are the types of things we like to engage people and tell them about. And then, of course, it's the dialogue. And really what we do is listen. We try to go out and get the input. We want to know if there's an issue, if there's a stop we have to look at. We want to know now, especially with the update of our community bus plan, what people want, so we can take it back to Heather and her team and say, here we go. This is what we want. This is what people say they will ride. Very, very important. And as I mentioned, our key initiatives this year, actually, I didn't mention it. Sorry, key initiatives this year, senior and student outreach. Because of that UPass you may have heard about, we now have new opportunities. We are always getting invited into the colleges around who are part of the UPass to come in for their orientation. So we can go in and get the kids on the bus, train them early, get them used to transit, and then they tend to ride easily later in life. We also have the government affairs, public affairs, outreach, our partners with the chambers. We've got some big projects coming up. The community bus plan, we're already starting. Central Avenue BRT, that's going to be cranking up pretty soon. And of course, we had a big one going with the spring break park and ride, where we had buses packed going to and from the beaches. The plan outlines our strategies, our goals, as well as the tactics and the tools we use. Most of them you're familiar with. We have a long list. It gets longer and longer, which is great. And we will choose from this list of tools what we want to use as needed, depending upon the different projects as we move from one to the other. And that's basically an overview of the strategic plan. We're running a little late, so I wanted to get through it kind of quickly. Questions?
Now, you showed the full document. Is that full document available?
There was I saw a link online to it. And as I said, you know, the kind of the exciting part about it is it really is a living document. It will be different 6 months from now because we get new projects and we find out what's working. Juan just today sent out one of the plans that we found from Indigo, which we will probably steal some stuff from them, which, why not? They're stealing our plan too. So we find what we can add and change, and that's flexibility. You're going to be an innovator, you have to be flexible.
I think when you see Heather's presentation, you'll see how Bob and his team have taken their work and applied it to the community bus plan. And so this strategic plan is really that framework. It's a guidance document for the public engagement team. of all of the things that they could do and how they support the agency in total. And like I said, I think that becomes evident in Heather's presentation. So if you have things that you think of later about the public engagement, we can talk about that here.
Also, the plan is included in our packets.
Oh, the full,
Mhm,
okay.
the
yes.
full,
Okay,
all
I-
16
I- I- see, I
pages, so
didn't-
thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have Heather.
Okay, good.
So, I'm sorry. No, go ahead. He has a quick question. Bob?
Yes, ma'am.
Richard has a quick question.
Yes. You talked about the surveys. Are those for specific routes that you do the surveys? I'm just wondering, like, if y'all wanted our input on some of these specific routes, if you sent out emails to the TRAC members, then we can fill out the surveys as well. I like to fill out surveys, so.
Usually, we always try to run everything through TRAC. It depends upon what we're working on. For instance, the last one we did, it was a very quick survey on the 100X for marketing. So we were out there just on that line alone. And then before that, I think it was specific to 300X. Although for the community bus survey, it's everyone everywhere. And then what was the survey we just did? Actually, that was so big we had
The system-wide
the system-wide survey. Then that's everybody in every route. So it'll vary from project to project. We'll bring them to you for sure.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks.
Our next information item is Heather Sobridge.
Hi, good afternoon. So yeah, I'm here to update you on the community bus plan scope. And the community bus plan is really kind of a large planning process that results in recommendations. But we use the bus plan to take a look at our entire system and how it's functioning. And by talking with riders and other stakeholders and analyzing a lot of data, we're able to develop recommendations under different funding scenarios for how we might make improvements to individual routes and the system. Right now, we're about a third of the way through the bus plan work. We've focused a lot of attention on the onboard survey that Bob was just mentioning, where we did a sample of our entire system and surveyed riders. We've recently received some really good data from that survey. We're also doing what we call early public outreach. We don't have any recommendations now for people to react to, but what we can do is talk to riders, members of the public, about what kind of improvements they'd like to see on the system. And some of you, I think, have already done the get on board game, but we have it in the back, and you can take $10 and see if we only had $10, how would we allocate that? How do we prioritize the type of things we can improve? We are looking forward to draft recommendations in the fall, and then we will do another big round of public engagement to take those out to the public, and then final recommendations to our committees and board in the November-December timeframe. The last time we did the bus plan update was about 5 years ago, so it's important that we take a look at things that may have changed in the last 5 years and also things that may change in upcoming years. So we analyze things like population, ridership, and then technology advances. We've been experimenting with the Uber and the Direct Connect, and so we'll do some analysis of that. The goals for the bus plan are to improve or build our transit constituency, and what that means is hopefully implement improvements that allow our existing riders to take more trips and then also attract new riders. We want to increase the transit competitiveness, so routes that run more on time, frequently, and then longer periods of day and more on the weekend. And then build financial sustainability, so really maximizing our return on the investments. So I mentioned we have a lot of data to analyze. This is just a list of all of it. We did receive some results already from the onboard survey, and are really looking forward to upcoming analysis of those Direct Connect and late shift programs and seeing how people are using those and how it interacts with our system. The scope, did I do that too fast? Oh, okay. The scope also includes system or case studies on other systems that have done redesigns. This is just a representative sample, but there are dozens of transit agencies across the country that have implemented system redesigns in the last few years, where they invested more of their resources into the high frequency route network in areas that transit does the best. And so we want to do these case studies so we can understand how these agencies were able to go about implementing changes to their systems, whether they got additional funding, whether they reallocated resources, and see, you know, what kind of best practices we can take from those efforts. So as was mentioned earlier, we pull from this larger outreach strategic plan the appropriate tools for reaching the public for the bus plan. So obviously the website, and that's something we're working on now, and participating in community events. And so just really trying to reach different markets in different ways. The outreach schedule, so we are in the process of developing the website now, and we will be developing an online survey that we will send out through you all as well, and attending public meetings, so we do the table at the public meetings with our Get On Board game. In the fall, we will have some draft recommendations, and we'll do a whole nother round of public outreach, so really give people something to react to with the recommendations. And then, and so this is just back to the overall schedule. You see the outreach is sprinkled in among the schedule, but completing on time in the November, December timeframe, the recommendations and having our board approve them allows us to start implementing in 2019, so probably mid-2019, and then allows any changes to the network to be included in our transit development plan as well as any unfunded recommendations. And then this transit plan also gets included in the larger Metropolitan Planning Organization's long-range transportation plan, and that is the plan where projects have to be to get funding under certain funding sources. So it's important we stay on track, and you know we are coordinated with all these other efforts. And that is my presentation. Happy to take any questions.
Yes, thank you. I saw that you said that that would be around the end of the calendar year. Does the PSTA run on a fiscal? Well, CEO is not there. Fiscal year, or how does that work? Will any results be able to be worked into the next year, or have you set aside budget for that? How will that?
Oh, it is on a fiscal year, so it's October 1 to September 30th is our year. We do the budget process in late spring, early summer. So for like if we implemented changes in June, we probably have to deal with some existing resources, or you know we do service changes 3 times a year, so we have the opportunity to do that as well.
I think it doesn't really matter when we end it, right? What matters is do we stay within the budget that we have? So like Heather said, we can make any efficiency recommendations that come out of any time within any service change. If there's some vast improvement, we'll need to go seek that funding from either Fed, state, or a local partner and package that up, and so that would just get rolled into the next fiscal budget cycle.
Questions? Any other questions?
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Yeah, we look forward to coming back to you in the fall with more information.
Now, our last item is the,
Actually, do you have a PowerPoint?
I have
one question. It's not really important, but I just want to know. Excuse me, what is fare box?
Oh, fare box is the money collected when you pay your fares. It's the thing on the bus.
That makes so much sense. It just describes it, right?
no, that's.
But we actually get a lot of data through that unit.
Okay.
And so the data, the unit transmits a bunch of data on what fares people are paying, what routes, and so that's data we can
I was
analyze
wondering
too.
what type of analytics
That's-
system it
Yeah.
was. Thank you.
That is a really good
common
question, actually.
I get that all the time. We kind of lapse into that industry speak and forget about it.
Right.
Our last information item is the Superior Transit Access Recognition Award, and Cassandra, I believe you're going to be presenting this.
I will, but with your help.
Okay, yeah, because my name is on it, but there have been some upgrades and movement on it here within PSTA, even since we've originally talked.
We're getting really excited about this.
Yeah,
and,
that is
taking
really
this
neat.
as an idea from the TRAC to the public, and
Bringing it to
I'm
life.
hoping that this first time that we make this award, that that you all will really be active in the celebration of it. So we've been working really hard with the subcommittee and with your chair to come up with a great name that makes sense. We don't have a graphic for you, but we'll get that to you next month. To call this, based out of your the safety initiative from last year, the Superior Transit Access Recognition Award or the TRAC Star Award. So how we'd like to do this, I think we've talked about some of the criteria we talked about last time, and you have that in your packet. But just the process of how we would recommend that you all look at these applications and make the nominations is that we would have Mary Ann collect them and get together with one of the planning staff as well as one of the marketing staff, kind of just go through them to make sure that they're complete. If we have any questions, are they eligible for the award based on the criteria? And then we would give you, the TRAC, those eligible applications and bring them to you as an action item for your agenda to decide, should this be a TRAC Star Award or not? So you'll receive all of the application, photos, everything, and we can have a robust discussion here. Then PSTA staff would notify the nominators, and you'll see on the form that you have in front of you, there's the who is being nominated, which can be different than the person who is making the nomination, but we would inform the person who has made the nomination and discuss with them how they'd like to inform the person that they're nominating or the project that they're nominating, and then celebrate it. And we would do that in a couple of different ways. One is marketing department is coming up with the actual creative of what that star award would look like, a certificate of some kind, any other collateral materials that we'd like to create. And then for the first award, we would like to create a press event and really make a big deal out of this new award that the PSTA TRAC, you all, are giving to good projects in the community. After that, we'd like to have your participation in taking those awards and to the cities in which they are located. So if you choose something from the city of Oldsmar, we would like to go make a presentation to the city of Oldsmar. One of you and a PSTA staff member would go and present the award to the developer or city staff or whoever built the project at the city itself. Because it's great for us to celebrate it at the PSTA board, it's even better when we can share that with another partner in making our community better. And so in order to facilitate that, sort of the continuation of the program after the initial awards is the public engagement team will be going out to city planners and new developments and encouraging applications. So what we'd like to do today is really sort of a consensus, because we'll do the real work next time. But look at the nomination form. If you have any final comments on the nomination form, we can take those today. If you're good with the selection process, we'll move forward and we'll go ahead and start from your own nominations. So take the first set of nominations from you here, because I think you all have a few that you've identified throughout the county already. And then go through the process. And in July, have you look at those that were nominated, pick one, two, however many you think are worthy of this new award at the TRAC meeting, present that at the board meeting, and then go ahead and go to the appropriate cities or nominated entities. Good?
I couldn't be more excited about the fact that we're doing this, but I think there's a value all around. One of the things that I was thinking about is, you know, we keep talking about, in fact, at the last board meeting, they were talking about the fact that general ridership, fixed route bus ridership was down, but that care ride, DART, was up quite a bit. And I was thinking, I could cut my care ride ridership in half if there were safer ways of getting into different centers. This is an opportunity for all these communities, by them starting to speak to developers and say, make it safe for bus riders to arrive at your stores so that people can be riding the regular fixed route buses, then it doesn't cost as much for the county, it doesn't cost as much for the individual rider. So that, that's an important message that can be part of this whole safety initiative as well. And then the other thing I'd mentioned to Cassandra when I was talking to her, we've been talking about new facilities, and a lot of times we talked about the one that I had witnessed in Oldsmar, but I was noticing one of the shopping centers that I'm not sure exactly when they did it, but that really has done it right. And that happened, I'm talking about the corner of Belcher and Gulf to Bay. Okay, there's Bob Evans, there's Walmart, all those, they have got perfect access. You can safely get into Walmart, you can get into any of those stores there, all on marked pedestrian walkways, and out to bus stops, all the bus stops in that area. It's like, wow, this is what I meant. Now, I don't know if that one was done because it was a newer redevelopment and therefore they had to adhere to ADA guidelines better, or I don't know. But I think some of the older ones that are just perfect examples ought to be eligible for this type of award, as well as the new ones where they've redeveloped. So those are just a couple of the thoughts that I wanted to share with the group. Yes.
Oh, I just want to mention, because Heather left. Heather said that the US 19 and East Bay Drive Tri-City Plaza is an excellent example of a new reconstruction that is absolutely perfect for access, bus access, and that's one of them that she.
You don't think so?
Uh-oh. No, I don't.
Oh.
Are we, let me clarify, we're talking about East Bay and US 19.
It's where Chili's was and the
Yes.
theater, they got rid of the theater?
Yes, Mom was in town the other week, and I can go to the gym either on 74 to the new Seminole Mall, which is kind of steep, and I have to adjust my chair, but I manage. But the sidewalk on the way to LA Fitness is cut. There's a big empty space. It's just, I had to turn around, go back, and go on the street. So it's maybe perfect on where the stores are, but not on the sidewalk across the street.
Well, this is a great conversation for our July meeting.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
if somebody
And these
nominates that one, then so this is exactly the kind of
Emails to
thing
the
where
city
maybe,
and the board.
once you see the
Yeah.
pictures, because I think having pictures for everybody to look at is gonna be really important,
Yeah.
especially for those who might be from North County looking at a South County project, or South County looking at a North County project. You wanna have all angles to take a look and make an assessment of whether you,
But I think-
as a collective body, think that this is an example of good transit access. So if you are all okay with the process, we'll do the product next time.
So over the course of this month, we do need to try to submit some applications.
Well, pretty quickly. So in order for us to get something in front of the PSTA board, well, to you first and then to the PSTA board for July, we really have about 2 or 3 weeks. I think we said July 6th.
Yes.
So if you have projects, I think you already have some projects in mind, to go ahead and take the nomination form. Marianne can email it out. Again, if there's no changes to it, or if there are, we can make those and then email it out. And we can get that presentation together for you for your next meeting.
Any other questions? Anyone? Yes, Richard.
So it says here, this is either gonna happen monthly or bi-monthly. How are we gonna decide that? I'm for bi-monthly or even quarterly. I think less frequently is better, especially if we wanna make a big deal about it, and handing the awards off. It seems like if we do it monthly, that's a little bit much. Plus, I've raised this in the past, it's gonna take a lot of our time as well, so.
I think that's a good discussion point for how often you want to see these. As a staff level, we thought quarterly was probably a good idea, and that we could have some to choose from, as opposed to just one each month.
Well, let me ask something, how the committee feels about this. There's the whole question of whether this is sort of like 1 or 2 that are superstar performance, or is it, if everyone is doing it right, can they all be getting that good housekeeping seal of approval? I kind of would love to see anybody who's good get it, rather than it just us having to pick 2 or 3 good ones. But that means more work, and so I don't want to make work for anybody.
No, I think that if it is truly a good example, then it should be an award that you give, right? If you really truly feel like it is, if you get 3 one month, you say all of them are good, and I would love for people to look at these and recreate them somewhere else because they're that good, then we should give all 3. And if you get 3 and you're like, you know, would I want this in my own neighborhood? Would I want this as my own stop? And you say no, then you should say no, and have that flexibility, I think.
And I agree completely with that. I hate to use the word participation trophy because I don't mean it in an insulting way, but anyone who's doing anything good should be rewarded. And I like your original story that started all this was someone who had done something poorly. We called them, they turned around and did something extra, and that you just felt, we need to do something for this guy. He, I don't remember what, poured an extra sidewalk or tore out a bush or something that put an ounce of effort toward access to transit, access for disabled access. And that's what we're looking for, folks that'll go an inch extra, let alone an extra mile. And yeah, I would be glad to give 100 of these things away a year. I'll go to all of the board meetings and if we need to. I'd, by the way, also recommend we do a subcommittee, you know, if we can't, tying this up, you know, meet the day before to whittle it down or something. Or
I think if we have
yeah, we'll make
a
that work.
digest
We'll make it work. Let's make time for this.
And it depends on how many we get.
Exactly, exactly.
So good.
Other comments, questions, thoughts?
We'll look forward to your nominations, and then bring this to you next month with some candidate projects.
When will we be sending out, so that, like, the preliminary, like if there are like 2 or 3 that I can think of, I can probably pull together to, is that gonna all be sent out to the TRAC members just before the TRAC meeting?
No, Monday.
Yeah, so we'll get them on Friday, and you give us a couple days to put it together, and then we'll send it to you out as soon as we can. It may come before the packet.
Send them to you.
Send them to Mary Ann
Just
by
as the, just
July
as the,
6th.
this package.
And then we were talking like maybe the 10th or the 11th, we would try to get them out. And your meeting's the 17th.
Send these to me.
Yep.
Well, good. Thank you very much. And so the last item on the agenda then is member comments. I will go around the room if anyone has anything that they'd like to say to the group. Oh, I'm sorry, Cassandra.
I have a list.
Okay.
I think Mary Ann has some things that she's put at your place.
Yes.
One is the
You're invited to
300X, yes.
the 300X event. You have until Friday to RSVP. We do have some TRAC members attending, so if you'd like to go, it should be a fabulous event. It's in the morning. I know many of you work, but if you could make it, it would be great. It will celebrate the first 300X Airport Express grand opening. And you have to RSVP to Ashley by Friday the 22nd, and it's at 9:15 in the morning on, it's here, June 25th.
And you can meet here for transportation.
Oh, yes. If you need transportation, you meet here in the lobby in the morning. That's what Kim and Elizabeth are doing. And Craig Daniels is having special transportation, so that's what's going on.
And you want to talk about Pride Parade?
Sure. In the back, if you have signed up to be a volunteer for the Pride Parade, we have the waivers. If you haven't signed up, you still can, but you may not have your t-shirt size. But if you're interested in participating, so you can just see me afterwards or Juan.
And then additionally, I know some of you have been testers for Flamingo, and we're excited about that. Run into probably some technical issues about rolling that out to the general public, so we'll get a date on that. But if you have any comments about your experience using Flamingo, I hope that you've been sending them in to our vendor. If you Express is here, if you have any additional comments or if you're having any problems.
Any Flamingo?
Oh, well, I need to ask Richard, but for the, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if she's doing it now.
June, until June 27th, and I was wondering, do you want to give the report from TRAC for that Okay, good.
Oh.
I'll do this. Mary will give
Does-
you the information sheet.
Oh, Cassandra, do you want feedback now to Espresso or after the meeting?
Just if you have issues, just go straight to Spressa.
Okay.
With the Fleming Affairs.
Yeah.
Okay, member comments. Does anyone have anything they want to say to the group or? Well, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you back here in July. Our meeting will be on July 17th. And at that point, we'll be pulling together our Transit Riders Award. Thank you very much.
Anybody want to go?
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Good day.
oh.
Good day. Oh, I thought you said-
Now I'm chilled.
I'm actually, I'm having some squirrels here all the time.
Yeah, you know.